amazed, and I was completely disappointed. He is touting himself as thinking outside the box. He's been outside of the box for 4 years, ladies and gentlemen. He's been outside of the box for 4 years, ladies and gentlemen.
He is touting himself as thinking outside the box. He is touting himself as thinking outside the box. He's been outside of the box for 4 years. I want to take this opportunity to speak directly to my Starr, and I want to ask you a question.
Hey, step aside, homeschool.
You've affected our community as a whole. You've affected our district. You've hurt our district as a whole. By sabotaging the butterfly building, you have done a serious disservice to victims of sexual assault and to our community in this district. Ladies and gentlemen, when I'm elected to district attorney, this kind of politics will not be done. I promise, and I pledge to you, that when I'm elected to district attorney, I will work with any qualified entity that is willing to assist victims. I will continue to work with the Fair House. I will revive the Ayuda Center to the point where hopefully it will become a fully functional child advocacy center in Starr County. I will work with the Butterfly Building or any other entity that is designed to help the victims of sexual assault in our community. I will not sabotage them because of political reasons. I will not undermine them because they don't agree with me politically. But as I promised you in my platform, I will work hand in hand with those entities and those people who are willing to give to this community rather than take from this community. The Butterfly Haven was going to be an entity that was going to give something back to this community. It was going to provide a very needed service for this community. And it doesn't exist today because the top law enforcement officer in our community sabotaged it and undermined it. I am Butch Allen Ramirez, and I want to be your district attorney.
Because that's the difference between voting for Omar and voting for Gocha. Now, this is not the first thing that you've done that's outside of the scope of the job description of the DA. I saw what you did in bringing in the whole digital cell phone investigation stuff. How did that come about?
Well, the thing with digital forensics is that, first off, that's an area where there's a lot of evolution. It changes. It gets updated, very often. The software that's used to download the phones that are coming out, are updated. They have new technologies, new capabilities. Over the years, Starr County's always sort of been behind the curve because we would have all the local law enforcement agencies, for example, the Sheriff's Department, Rio PD, Roma PD, all the agencies that we can think of here, all the, the RGCC ISD, Roma ISD PDs, whenever they seized evidence as far as, especially when it came to sex crimes, we had to send this stuff out to federal agencies and wait for them to decide to extract them. Now, to be fair, all the local law enforcement agencies in the valley were sending them to federal authorities, and I could see that they were being swamped with requests to download, evidence, that is to extract digital evidence from phones or tablets or PCs or any kind of computer. So they were getting deeply backlogged. And with any of this, and so the thing with the technology was that now you were waiting for an extraction, a digital extraction, that is to what we call to dump a phone.
So there's a federal guy sitting somewhere, and he's got all of these small towns sending him stuff, and he's got a long list of cases to extract from, and he works 9 to 5 like everybody else does, and it creates this huge bottleneck.
Right. I mean, the thing is that you're going to be on a list. Our stuff wasn't getting examined for more than 6 months. It could be 6 months to a year or more. And it could be a capital murder case. It could be anything, and stuff wasn't getting analyzed on a timely basis for law enforcement entities. Now, think about it for just a moment. Suppose you have a murder case and investigators want to arrest somebody right now. So they take them into custody. They're holding them in custody, but the law says that you can't hold a person for more than 90 days without being ready for trial. If in the murder you seized, or the investigators seized, digital evidence, and it had not been dumped, it had not been extracted within the 90 days, how can the state say, oh, we're ready? It's impossible. There's no way.
Okay, so right now you're presenting another problem that you found another solution to.
Right. In other words, at some point you have to think, well, how do we create something here where we can do our own digital forensics? Like, how do we do this? And so the only real answer is sort of the federal training that's offered through the Secret Service. And they have their own school in Alabama where they train investigators, and it can be ordinary personnel that work for law enforcement entities on how to do digital extractions. The problem is that it is very competitive to get into these to this particular class. They only house about 20 to 30 persons per session in the entire nation. So you can only have, throughout the entire nation, you're going to have 20 to 30 spots available at any one time. And it was, basically impossible to get somebody from Starr County out there. We've been looking into this for some time. So this year, what happened was that our local Secret Service agent, a lot of credit to the local agency, they were able to see that there was a need locally for this. And there was a vacancy. Somebody canceled at the last moment. I remember it was just a couple of days before, and they asked, can your guy make it up to Alabama?
So you got a guy in there.
So they said, yes, we've got a vacancy, but you've only got a couple of days to act on it. And our investigator said, yeah, I'm available. So he got sent up for the month-long training where they come back basically certified expert in this area. And then the federal government will send equipment, high-tech equipment and very expensive equipment to do this digital extractions. And it is basically a service to all law enforcement entities. So if you can think about it, now you have the Texas Rangers coming to our office because it's being housed through the district attorney's office. And the investigator that was trained is a district attorney investigator. So, and then I hired an additional person that has a degree in computer science and computer engineering to assist the investigator. And so we now have what we would call a full-time digital forensics lab.
Okay, so you sent the guy up there, he got trained,
Yes.
and because he got trained, the federal government sent the DA's office a whole bunch of federal equipment
Right.
that the taxpayers didn't have to pay for, and now people are going to be sending stuff to us to extract from
We're
it?
already getting stuff. I mean, from the Sheriff's Department, from the Texas Rangers, it could be from DPS, from Texas Parks and Wildlife, from all the PDs, they're all coming here, but our turnaround locally can be within 30 days, 30 to 60 days, not a year.
But you're supposed to be prosecuting murders, and that's all you're supposed to do. Why are you doing this out-of-the-box stuff?
Well, here's the problem. For us, we can't wait a year.
Again,
To
you
do
ain't-
digital so you can envision a situation, you can envision a problem, and I figured we just had to find a solution. I mean, let's just find a solution to this. To the extent that we can find one, whatever it takes, let's just find a solution to get it done. That's what I'm about. I mean, I believe in this. Is that I'm not going to sit by and just, okay, well, we've got a problem here, and let me just complain about it. Let me just criticize it, and let me not do it. Let me not do anything at all.
So you're not easily overwhelmed, and you don't throw the towel in.
Starr County entering the new year with new technology.
Yeah, and it could be key in solving cold cases. Channel 5's Valerie Gonzalez with a look at what they're using. Valerie.
Tools like cell phones help us stay in touch, find our way around, and document life. When they're used in crimes, investigators need other tools to examine those electronic devices.
We can even extract deleted pictures, deleted videos. There's a lot of web history that we can track down, or even there's timelines, because throughout the phone, it creates records. If you stand up, if you move, the steps you take, all of that creates a timeline. So we can maybe create a timeline if there's a crime committed or place a suspect in a location.
Jesus Morales is one of the investigators opening up phones to pull data off of them. They're using tools acquired by the DA's office through internal revenue and grants. D. Omar Escobar Jr. says getting this equipment was imperative for investigative agencies in Starr.
Is they would seize the phones as evidence, get search warrants, and then they'd have to send them off to a location to be able to get that, extracted, that information extracted, and that's what would happen. But that took a long time, and it would take either 6 months and then to a year, and then in some cases years.
Escobar says this equipment is also helping DPS and schools investigating their own cases, which go beyond crime. Last month, the body of an immigrant man was found without ID, but with a waterlogged phone in the river.
The sheriff's office came for help because he had a cell phone. We were able to get a contact list, and we were able to call their family members in Mexico, and they were able to recover the body.
And once is an occurrence, twice is whatever it is. Give me something else that you've done outside of the box. Give me something that really just kind of took you give me another problem and another solution.
One of the things that you're going to find, you're going to see, is that for law enforcement, keeping up with technology is difficult. I mean, law enforcement entities are always sort of behind the curve, and we're trying to catch up. It's always a challenge to get up to date. One of the things that we looked at that was, I think, fairly out of the box is that I sent one of my investigators to a training, and it was a cold case seminar, I'm going to say mid-2019.
Cold case, these are the old ones that nobody's done anything with?
Right. It was a seminar, and I figured, we could get some use out of this. So I sent one of my investigators up there, and he came back and he said, boss, I was at this training and they talked about this brand new technology that was being used in Williamson County. It's called an MVAC system. And he went he tried to explain it to me, and eventually it led me to a YouTube video looking at this technology and how it's being used to crack cases in other parts of the country. So Williamson County is the only other county to have it. In other words, it was probably the first county in Texas to have this, and they have this resources, to analyze whatever evidence is forwarded to them. So he said, this is something that we could look at, and maybe we can send some of our cases up there, or some of the local cases up there, and we can stand in line and hope that our stuff gets analyzed. But we can look at it. So this MVAC system is kind of like you can think of it as kind of like a wet dry vac. And it's able to scoop up evidence that ordinary swabs will not be able to get. So in the ordinary crime scene, if you're going to see, for example, blood on the surface, an investigator is going to get a swab, which is very similar to the ear swabs that you might see, and they'll just dab it there and transfer it. And of course, there can be a wet swab and a dry swab. One, of course, has liquid and the other one does not, a solvent, and the other one does not. And so one that, they use a solvent that's, or they're going to use a liquid that's not going to denature proteins. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to look for forensic evidence, and it's based on transferring this biological evidence onto the swab, and then the swab is tested by DPS crime lab whenever they get to it, which is a whole different issue.
Bottleneck. So
what this machine does is that it's able to get into what we call a porous surface. And a porous surface is more like, you can think of a cotton shirt.
Anything that soaks water.
Yeah. So anything that can really soak stuff up. And something that is soaked into a porous surface, it's going to be difficult to swab and to grab evidence.
It's in the pores.
Because it's if it's not visible, plainly visible, it's going to be difficult to get to. So in some of the cases that we were studying, is that I was looking at, was that they could actually extract biological evidence from rocks and cement.
Holy crap!
And substances that you would never even think of. And I'm thinking, well, if Williamson County has it, why is it that we cannot? Maybe it's cost prohibitive. I don't know.
Do we have it?
Well, then I say, well, let's look into it. So, I look at it and I say, hey, this is not outside of the realm of possibility, especially if it even solves one murder someday, it's worth it to us.
So you got it?
So we were able to, this is what I did. I called the sheriff, I called Noe Castillo from Rio PD, and I called Victor Canales from the county attorney's office, who sort of heads the special crimes unit. And I said, look, gentlemen, we need to come together on this. The DA's office will front one half of the cost of this, and I'd like for you all to cover the other half of this. So, and I thought it was very reasonable. We were able to purchase the equipment and, get the training to come in late 2019. But we were able to come together and when I pitched the idea to them, they were gung-ho. They were like, we need to get this right now. Let's get it done. So I went through the ordering process, and we went through the whole issue of, when it gets down here and all this kind of stuff. So we were able to get the machine here and then get training in 2019. So that's another resources, that we have available. So if you can think about it, if we were behind the curve, now we are probably at the latest technology, certainly for forensic evidence collection. This is cutting edge. And so now Starr County, you can't say that Starr County is behind in technology. We are, I'm going to say, ahead of the curve now than most law enforcement entities, even in the country.
Which cities in that Williams County that will?
Well, that's going to be north of Austin for most of those that are here. So it's going to be just north of Austin.
So now we're at the same technological level as Williamson County?
Well, I don't know of any other county that's using this technology, and the trick is going to be to get some of those, because what happens is that it's going to extract the liquid. It sort of shoots liquid into whatever that surface might be. It could be clothing, whatever it might be, and then it sucks up that liquid. That liquid is run through filters. The filters capture whatever biological evidence there might be, and then those filters are tested. See what I'm saying? Getting those things tested is usually done now by private labs, and we're hoping that DPS will get to the point where they can test it for us. In other words, we're hoping DPS will catch up to this technology so that it's not cost prohibitive for the taxpayers and for the law enforcement entities locally in Starr County. But I mean, that move for us is sort of a big leap in technology. It is a huge leap for us. I don't know that we have ever been as technologically advanced and with the times as we are now. This would be the first time, I'm going to say, in probably Starr County law enforcement history that we are as technologically advanced as we are right now. It's a huge leap for us. And by the way, this is not just for Starr County, because we can analyze, stuff from Duval County and from Jim Hall County or any other county that we see, has a need for it. This technology is to be used for law enforcement purposes and really to solve cases. And if we can help out, our neighbors to the north and to the east or west, of course we're going to help out, because that's what we're here to do. We are here to serve the community, but to serve the law enforcement community in particular, to get it advanced and to get cases solved.
So what does this mean for the cold cases?
I mean, now it would be the time, and now is the time, I think Special Crimes is now looking at this, to go back through each agency, because the Special Crimes unit is a unit that is made up of all the different local law enforcement entities. And so they're going to go back, going through these cases, and they're through the agencies and saying, okay, agency, what do you have in terms of physical evidence that we might be able to get tested? And sort of they're beginning the process of scheduling what they're going to test and how, and the methodology that they're going to do, that they're going to use to get stuff tested.
So you've basically brought a new approach to trying to solve these cold cases.
If you've got technology that's available and it's within our reach, why not? I mean, that's the thing, that even as a DA, it's not just about being in the courtroom and presenting cases. There's a lot more going on than just simply prosecuting. I mean, you're trying to find resources, you're trying to manage resources, and you're trying to manage staff, and you're trying to help out in investigations as they come about. Aside from that, one of the things that we can do is try to advance at least our technological capacities locally. If nobody else is doing it, then we should try. And I'm thinking, well, why not? If it doesn't exist, I just got to say, why not? Why don't we try it? Why don't we do it?
When bodies are found and evidence is gathered, they're hoping to use this tool. It's called an MVAC, designed to extract biological evidence from evidence that proved resilient to current methods.
And one of the things that this equipment can do is extract DNA from pieces of evidence that are right now sitting in an evidence bin somewhere.
Robert Caples with Special Crimes is waiting to use this on cold cases. There is a holdup.
The technology is so advanced right now that only private labs can test it. And so DPS is not necessarily in a position yet to test this stuff, but I'm very confident that they will.
We reached out to DPS this week to explain whether they'll be able to process evidence from this tool. They're working on a response.
We asked the district attorney why they're requiring these tools now as he's approaching re-election. He says they were trying to get one of their investigators into the program that allowed for their digital forensic unit since last year. This year, someone dropped out of the limited class space, allowing Starr an opportunity to climb aboard. That came with the equipment donation. As for the MVAC, it was a result of a summer conference attended by a different investigator who became interested in its cold case assistance capabilities. In the studio, Valerie Gonzalez, Channel 5 News at 6.
And I was completely disappointed